welcome to Focus on Finance. I'm your host, Melanie Parker. Focus on Finance is brought to you by the Consumer Education Division of the Wright Legacy Group. Speaking of the Legacy Group, the Wright Legacy Group, we have Austin Wright here. You are a financial advisor as well.
Yes.
But today we're going to be talking about Medicare because
Absolutely.
You are the in-house at the Wright Legacy Group, in-house Medicare guru.
Yeah, some people call me that. That's
Yes,
for sure.
yes, I know I do regularly. And there's, the Wright Legacy Group hosts regular Medicare informational websites. And folks, they just don't know what they don't know.
Absolutely.
When I first came in, I thought, okay, when I turn a seasoned age, a specific age, I believe it's 65, I will start collecting Medicare and all of my medical needs will be taken care of.
Yeah.
Foolish thought. So let's say I'm turning 65. What do I need to do?
Well, the first thing you need to do is to review your Medicare qualification.
Okay.
If you've worked most of your life, then you're in good shape.
Okay.
But you also need to determine if you're going to continue working or if you're going to be retired at 65. So depending on where you are,
so like my full retirement age is 67.
Yes.
So how does that work?
So if you're working past 65, if the job that you work at offers health insurance and they have more than 20 employees, then you can actually maintain your health insurance through your work if that works really well for you.
Great.
And then when you leave employment, then you would have to then switch to Medicare.
Gotcha.
However, if you work for a smaller business, fewer than 20 employees, or you're already retired, then when you turn 65, you'll want to go ahead and enroll in Medicare.
Gotcha. And I guess I should change a little bit what I said. You actually can retire anytime you can afford to retire.
That's correct.
But our mind, and I've learned that working at the Wright Legacy Group. I pay attention in the workshops. But the mindset for the regular individual, myself included, is I will retire once I qualify for Social Security, which for me would be 67.
Yeah.
But actually I could retire before or after that based on my life's choices
Correct.
financially.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and actually 70% of people actually take Social Security at 62.
Gotcha.
And so a lot of people by the time they reach 65 have already been started drawing Medicare and are either maybe still working or looking to retire at that point.
So if you take Social Security at 62, can you take Medicare at that time as well?
You can, yes.
Okay, I was not aware of that.
No, you cannot take, you get Medicare at 65.
65,
so even if you get Social Security at 62, Medicare does not kick in until 65.
Gotcha.
And so it may help you pay for other insurance for that period of time if you retire early. However, when you turn 65, that's as soon as you can qualify for Medicare. Traditional Medicare. Now, if you have a disability, you can apply and you can get Medicare early.
It's a different pool of money.
It is,
right?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
And so, however, if you qualify for disability with Medicare, that will actually become your Social Security check when you turn 62. So if you apply for disability, like say around 55, you will get that check until you turn 62, but then that disability check will then become your Social Security check.
Interesting. Okay. And it's certainly not why we're here, but let's throw out that you can start collecting Social Security at 62, but it's at a lesser amount.
Yes. You only get right now it's about 72% of what your full retirement age benefit is.
It doesn't go up when you hit 65
It doesn't increase year over year. That number
is,
you're getting that percentage for the rest of your life.
Right. Or you can hold off until you're 70. At least that's how it is right now.
Yes.
And gain 8% interest for 4 years.
Correct. Yeah. Once you reach your full retirement age, you get 100% of the benefit you're allowed to have, and then it grows 8% a year until you reach 70.
Right. Goals.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everything.
So just want to throw that in there. I know we're here for Medicare, but it all sort of...
It all ties together.
Yes,
part of that is when you enroll for Medicare, you actually have to do it through the Social Security office.
Right.
And so, you can either call the local office here in town, or you can do it through the website, and you can enroll online if you're comfortable doing that. If you want to talk to a real person, still have to call the Social Security office and get that. Make an appointment, and they can help you get set up for that.
Sure.
And you can actually do it as early as 3 months before the month you turn 65.
Okay.
So, for example, if your birthday was September 30th, then you would be able to enroll 3 months earlier.
Okay.
So you would be able to start July you would be able to.
So it would start. It wouldn't wait until your birthday.
Correct. Yeah, it starts the first day of the month that you turn 65. So even if you're born on the last day of the month, it will start at the beginning of the month,
right?
As opposed to the actual date of your birth. And so that's just so that there's a little bit less of a headache. They're not trying to keep track of every day. They just have 12 points of the year that they're trying to get people started on the different programs.
And this is stuff you need to know year round. But
yes,
the reason we're here now,
absolutely,
is because time is of the essence when it comes to Medicare.
Yes. So we are entering what is known as the open enrollment period. So far, for the last decade or so, it's been between October 15th and December 7th. The open enrollment period really is for a specific type of Medicare. There's two different ways that you can get Medicare. You can enroll in what's known as traditional Medicare, which is where you get your Part A and your Part B. And then most of the time, if you're in traditional Medicare, you would add a Part D drug plan, and you would maybe get a standalone supplemental to help offset some of the costs of that Medicare does not cover.
Right.
The open enrollment is really for Part C, which is also called Medicare Advantage. Or if you need to make a change to your Part D coverage, which is your drug coverage. Because your pharmaceutical needs can change year over year, they give you a once a year period of time where you can make adjustments based upon what your current needs are.
Gotcha.
And then if you're on an Advantage plan, you can make those adjustments. Advantage plans operate more like traditional insurance that you have before 65, where there's usually co-pays, co-insurance, things of that nature. There can also sometimes be added benefits of, the drug plan might be included. You can get some vision, health, hearing.
Is that through the government as well?
Yes. So the way that Part C works, Medicare Advantage plans work, is the private insurance company that you have a plan with is subsidized by the government, as opposed to you directly having a relationship with the government through, like you have through traditional Medicare.
Okay, so you could do traditional Medicare, which would be A and B, which is hospital.
Yes. So Part A covers your hospitalization. If you're ever checked into a hospital, that's what Part A covers.
Gotcha.
Part B is outpatient or preventative care. So if you go see your primary care doctor, or you have an outpatient procedure, that's covered under Part B.
Gotcha.
And then Part D, that's the only one that really makes a lot of sense. D is drug, and so that's a standalone. And then the supplemental plan that you can get through a private insurance company covers the cost that Part A and B do not cover.
All right, and then the secondary option would be Part C, which is the Medicare Advantage
plan. That's correct.
So it would be one or the other.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that one, depending on your situation or your personal scenario, one would benefit you more than another, depending on what your needs are?
Yeah, it's so during your open enrollment, when the time frame that you're turning 65, or if you've had credible insurance, stayed at work, there's a 60-day period after you retire that you are basically given what's called a guarantee issue. So no matter what your health condition is, you qualify for Medicare, and you can also get a supplemental plan issued no matter what your health status is.
It's good to know.
Which is good.
Yes.
But if you are outside of those time frames, either you're retired at 65 or you just left your work, but it's now day 61, in order to qualify for a supplement plan, it's based upon your health status.
Gotcha.
And so you can qualify for Part A and B, but you may not be able to qualify for a supplemental plan.
Oh.
And so it depends on your health at that time. And so for the most part, people that are on Advantage plans are people that are more comfortable with the understanding of how traditional insurance works. Maybe they're a little bit more comfortable than that.
Often and they don't have to medically qualify for that one?
That's correct, yeah. It's based upon really what they want coverage-wise. And so those premiums typically can be a little bit less each month.
Interesting.
So, for example, if you were to get a supplemental plan doing the traditional Medicare route, for women in this area, it's around $125 a month. For a man, it's around $140 a month. And that's based upon basically the state and the zip code that you live in, is how they set that pricing.
Sure.
But a Medicare Advantage plan could be as low as $45 or $50.
Wow.
So there is a month-to-month difference.
Sure.
But if you were to be on an Advantage plan instead of traditional Medicare, and you had a hospitalization event, say you had a heart attack or something that caused you to have to be in the hotel for a couple of nights, well, the bill for that can be quite expensive.
Sure.
And your out-of-pocket expenses can be very different. If you're on traditional Medicare, You have a $1,556 deductible if you're placed into the hospital as an inpatient. With an Advantage plan, you have a lot more that you're going to have to pay.
So if you're healthier, you may want to go.
Yes, if you feel like you're healthy and you feel like you know you're going to be healthy for a long period of time.
Look at your genetics
exactly.
and all of the things.
Then Advantage plans can work for you.
Sure.
But you want to know how the plan works, who it's covered. Another thing about Advantage plans is most of the time they're an HMO, so you want to make sure the doctors you use are actually within the network, so you're covered. As to where if you're on traditional Medicare, anywhere that they accept Medicare, they're going to accept.
Which is most places.
Yeah, which is most places, outside of maybe some family offices. Most of the time, they'll accept Medicare, and if they accept Medicare and you also have a supplemental, they'll also accept the supplemental.
Right.
And so if you go the traditional route and you also add the supplemental, you're looking at between $250 to $300 a month. That's not insignificant.
Right.
But it is kind of more of a known cost.
Yes.
Okay, well, if I budget this, then, if I have a hospitalization event, Medicare will cover certain parts. The supplemental will cover everything else that Medicare does not cover. And so all I really am out is the premium each month. And so it's a little bit more plannable. You can kind of budget it easier. And so it kind of helps you know what your healthcare costs can be when it comes to primary care and hospitalization events.
Sure. And when you're doing your budget, the novice in me, several years ago, before I started working with the Right Legacy Group, I thought that Medicare was free.
Yes.
And it's not.
Yeah. Now, Part A is if you've worked for 40 quarters.
Gotcha.
So if you've paid into Medicare for 40 quarters, then the Part A is free to you.
Which is 10 years?
That's about 10 years. If you work any period of time, you've paid it. They do it for 40 quarters because some people leave the workforce and come back, so it's just based upon how many quarters you paid in. But that's roughly 10 years. Most of the time, people go to work in their 20s. If you're in your 60s, you have 40 years to get 40 quarters. That's one quarter a year. That's pretty manageable.
Yes.
If, for example, you were a stay-at-home mom, you've never worked in the workforce, if you were to draw Medicare on your own work record, you could pay up to almost $500 a month for Part A.
Wow.
Now, most of the time, there are ways that you can actually draw off your spouse.
Sure.
There's some ways that you can do that while your spouse is living. You can also qualify for free Part A if they've paid in over their 40 quarters as well. But once your spouse passes, then you have to plan for those additional costs when you're drawing off your own record.
Yeah. With us being in Kentucky, we have a lot of rural.
Yes.
There's a lot of women who did not work outside the home.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my grandmother. I mean, I'm sure there are still situations, stay-at-home moms and all of that, and never worked a day outside the house in her life.
Yes, and so that's something you have to know, is that if that's your situation, then you'll just need to figure out what that will look like, and that can affect your cost month over month as you're utilizing Medicare.
But like you said, she was able to, I guess, pull off of my grandfather, her husband's work record?
Yes, as long as he was living.
Gotcha.
And everything like that.
And that's the same with Social Security, correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. All right, wow. Yeah, I thought that, I turn 67 and I'll get Medicare and it won't cost me anything and I'll get Social Security and all of the things. But there are different case scenarios for everybody, isn't there?
Absolutely.
And if I personally, this is just me being biased, think they need to talk to somebody like you who knows and your dad who knows the different case scenarios used specifically with not only investments and finances, but Medicare and all of that.
Yeah.
So, and there's actually a shockingly substantial amount of common things that Medicare doesn't pay for.
That's correct.
That a lot of people, myself, maybe I'm Pollyanna, I just did not even realize.
Yeah. So a large expense that will come up, particularly as you age, that Medicare does not cover is long-term care. So if you ever are admitted to a nursing home, Medicare will not help with that.
Right.
And so you have to have planning outside of Medicare to help cover those additional costs as well. Now, they may help cover some of your doctor visits, things of that nature, but the actual expense, the day-to-day expense of being in a skilled care nursing facility, that's not covered by Medicare.
Gotcha.
And unless you have an Advantage plan that covers it, it also does not cover dental, or your hearing or vision.
Wow.
And
which
so
is all of the things that go when you are seasoned.
Absolutely. So if you, as you're game planning for your cost, the healthcare cost in retirement, Medicare is a part of it.
Right.
It does help in a large way. It's definitely a component, but you also have to game plan for the other areas of health that you need to have covered. And there's a myriad of different ways that you can plan, particularly for long-term care, where it's not just a bill anymore, but you can invest in something that gives you, a pool of money that you can draw off of while you're living.
Smart.
But it's also an investment to where if you don't utilize that money, it actually can pass to your heirs tax-free. So there's some things like that are available now that have not always been available in the past. And then dental, vision, that kind of stuff. You have to find the best plan that fits for that.
So you can find supplements that would cover those? Yeah,
a lot of the supplements now also maybe don't cover it directly, but they offer discount benefits, things of that nature. If you go to specific providers, there's a lot of drug plans that, like say Walmart will have a specific plan that will offer specific vision, not dental, but vision and hearing discounts, things of that nature, to kind of help you offset some of the costs that Medicare itself does not directly cover.
And I know when you're on a fixed income and you are a seasoned citizen, you need every penny.
Yeah.
So it would be, I can understand where they would just automatically go for the advantage because you could save $100 a month.
Yeah.
But it's super important for folks to look long term.
Correct.
And you may be saving that $100 a month now, but if you have a serious crisis, it's going to compound.
It can mean tens of thousands of dollars of difference based upon what your medical coverage is when you have that crisis event. For example, my grandmother, before she passed, she was placed in the hospital, and when she was finally released, her medical bills were well over $100,000. She was there for an extended period of time. But because she had traditional Medicare and she had a supplement plan, she actually didn't pay $1 out of her pocket.
Wow.
And so because she was willing to pay the premiums, she was almost 80 at that time, and so she had paid premiums for almost 15 years, but the premiums she paid over that period of time were nowhere near the cost that she saved, even in just that one hospitalization event.
Sounds like she had some good, solid financial advice.
Yeah, well, my father's been in the business for quite a while.
25 years. Yep, just hit 25 years this year.
So,
Yeah, well, I'm glad that he brought you in.
Yep.
I've actually been there longer than you have.
You got me by 2 years.
Yes. Brought you in because not only do you do the investments and those types of things, but like I've said earlier, you are the Medicare guru. So your dad maybe doesn't have to read quite as much. He can just
it's hard to be the expert on everything.
Right.
And so we like to hone up on our knowledge and understanding of different areas.
Right.
So that if we don't know it, we know somebody that does.
Exactly. Exactly. So if I am 3 months away from my 65th birthday and I need to start planning for Medicare, I'm assuming that people really start getting a lot of stuff in the mail.
They do, yeah.
Do they?
Usually it's almost even 4 months, 6 to 4 months before you turn 65. You'll start getting all the phone calls, all the emails, all your mailbox will be full of all the flyers.
They're definitely not going to miss the opportunity. They're going to know their deadlines.
They're going to know their deadlines,
okay.
And so, but it's important to sort through the clutter to actually understand what is best for your specific situation.
Right.
And so instead of reading every flyer that says, it's $20 cheaper than this other place, whatever, okay, well, what does that $20 actually save you?
Right.
Or what could it cost you?
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's worth more to pay a little bit more up front to know that if in the event of something tragic happening, you're covered,
right.
In the long run in things in a larger way.
Yes. Well, I sat down thinking, I'm concerned that people don't know. They don't know what they need to do.
Yeah.
But now I've changed my mind about that. Now I feel like maybe I'm a little worried that they're, like you said, inundated with so much that they're not going to go with what's best for them, but what some total stranger is telling them is best for them. That's going to benefit that person.
Yeah.
So I think education is key.
Absolutely.
that I now feel a sense of worry for all of these folks that are about to turn 65. And now we're in the window of, and maybe they made some choices based on some mailings that they got random, that, pretty flyer, whatever, and made some choices. But that's why we have these open windows. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's part of what the open enrollment is about. Is, say, if you started and you got an Advantage plan because the premiums were cheaper, during the open enrollment period, you can actually switch back over to traditional Medicare.
Good.
Now, you can get Part A, Part B, and Part D, but the supplement will still be based upon your health if you're already over 65. But you can switch from the Advantage plan to traditional Medicare during the open enrollment period, and your coverage on traditional Medicare will actually start January 1st.
So maybe folks could start on the Advantage plan while their health is good, and then when their circumstances change a few years down the road during open enrollment, they could change it out based on their medical needs?
Yeah, you can, but most of the time people only switch once their health declines, and that's often when the supplemental is no longer available to you. And to kind of explain,
that's why we have you.
And to kind of explain why the supplemental is so important, for each medical event you have on Part A, you have a $1,556 deductible. Okay. So that's not insignificant money.
No, not when you're on a fixed income.
And then above that, it's also an 80-20 coinsurance, meaning that Medicare will pay for 80%, you have to pay for 20%. Right. So if you have a $10,000 medical expense, you could be on the hook for almost $4,000 to $5,000, almost half of that, because of your deductible as well as the coinsurance. So it's less than it would be if you were paying out of pocket.
Sure.
But the supplement, if you have the right supplement plan, will cover all of those expenses for you. And so you pay nothing out of pocket other than the premiums to have the supplement.
Gotcha.
And that's why I just continue bringing that up, that it's important to make sure that you can qualify for a supplement plan.
Right.
Because even with Medicare, you can have significant cost, even if it's substantially less than it would be if you did not have it.
So if someone did the Medicare Advantage, should they do a supplement with that, just for a long term?
You cannot get a supplement with an Advantage plan. Okay. You can only get a supplement with the traditional Medicare, where you have just A and B and Part D. Okay. If you have an Advantage plan, that kind of is a supplement, and all the other parts kind of combined.
Sure.
But the cost out of pocket to you are different. It's more like traditional insurance.
Okay. So I guess what we're saying is we're encouraging people to do a supplement while their health is good.
That's typically what we recommend. Is while you know that you can qualify, even if the costs are a little higher up front.
Right.
Over time, the cost that it will save you once you have, but it will happen eventually.
Yes.
Where you have a hospitalization event, or you have some kind of medical issue that you have to work through. Right. The cost savings to you will be very substantial.
And usually if people have made it that far in life, they're smart enough to know that paying a little bit extra up front has great value on the back end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So it looks like we are out of time.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. This was good information. It actually, let me throw in here, at a workshop you did just last week, you put out a number that just took me aback. How much would you say the average person needs on top of their Medicare, all of that, to sustain their health in retirement?
Yeah, so the average cost to each individual is around $130,000 on top of the premiums that you're paying, everything like that.
Yes.
And so when you look at it in that respect, if you kind of can, particularly if you can know what you have to pay, that $130,000, you can plan for that otherwise. And if you can reduce that number as much as you can by with the supplemental things of that nature, where you're focusing more on long-term care, nursing skilled facilities, in-home care, things of that nature. Right. Your money can go towards those things to help your quality of life be better instead of having to use it.
And release a burden to your family.
Absolutely.
That's a big one.
Yeah,
whether
absolutely.
it be financial or physical.
Yes.
I guess what we should close with is encouraging people to take care of your health.
Absolutely.
So that when you do get that old seasoned, you can take care of yourself as long as possible.
Yeah, there's nothing like prevention.
Yes.
The more that you can do today, starting right now, to help yourself be healthy moving forward,
right.
The better it will be for you in the future.
Right. You heard the man. Starting right now, we need to take better care of ourselves so we can be healthy and productive and live good lives for as long as possible.
Yep.
I mean, all of the other is inevitable, but we can maybe stave it off a little bit and not be a burden to ourselves financially, our families physically, and but these things happen, and you are the man that people need to talk to, and I genuinely mean that. So if anybody out there needs questions answered, some guidance, Austin Wright is your guy. You need to give him a call, 270-723-0333. I kid you not, I would trust this man with my grandchildren. So he is a man you need to call. Thank you so much for joining us on Focus on Finance. You've got your open enrollment until December 7th.
Until December 7th, that's correct.
It starts October 15th.
Yep.
So you all have questions, call Social Security office, give Austin a call, and let's get you set up, not have to worry about it anymore, and everybody will be healthy, happy, and safe. Thank you so much. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you. We'll see you next time.